Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video, I'm talking about my recent horror reads. So, I have a few books here that I really enjoyed. The first book I want to talk about is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. This was surprisingly really good. So this book is about a young woman who grew up in an infamously haunted house, and her father wrote a book about it similar to the Amityville Horror, and the book was a bestseller. So she's gone her whole life with this kind of on her shoulders, and she's believed that the house wasn't actually haunted and it was all made up. So at the start of the book, her father has died and he leaves the house to her, which she didn't even realize he still owned. So she goes to the house to kind of come to terms with what happened and try to determine if it actually was haunted or if it was all made up. And things go crazy from there. I love that this story is told in two different perspectives. One is the perspective of our main character, and the second is it's the chapters in the father's book. I love that it's very much like the Amityville Horror and the Haunting of Hill House show. It's filled with lots of formulaic stuff and cliches, tropes from horror, but I do think it works really well in this story, and I ate it up. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It's a little less scary than what I anticipated. It's not filled with as much of the ghost supernatural stuff as I would have liked, but I do like where the story went. And there are some moments, there's one moment in particular where the father is taking photos with a Polaroid camera to try to see a ghost, and that was really intense and had me like on the edge of my seat. So yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna become a Riley Sager fan because I think his books are hit or miss, but I liked this one. I'm happy I read it. I liked it a lot more than Lock Every Door. Then I read Did You Hear What Eddie Gein Done? So this is a graphic novel about Ed Gein, who was an infamous killer that they based Leatherface off of, they based Norman Bates and Psycho off of, and Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. And this is basically a biography of his life. We see his childhood and his relationship with his mother, which was really messed up. And you can see how that relationship, this abusive, toxic relationship, really warped his sense of view on people, especially women. And he just kind of grew up in a very sad, sheltered way, and he was bullied and just picked on for being weird. Then we see him as an adult up until the events leading up to his crimes, and we see his crimes and how the community reacted to it. It's really, really interesting. It was very disturbing in many ways, but I was just so pulled in by this. The artwork is incredible. I found myself at the beginning of this story actually feeling bad for Ed Gein, which is, I mean, that's a testament to the writers. They created an interesting story with interesting characters that just happen to be based on horrifying people. I think this dude, he became what he became because of the horrible environment he was raised in, and I really wish he would have gotten help. Then I picked up The Ice Cream Man, which is a graphic novel. It's kind of like Creepshow in a way. It is a bunch of different horror stories that are connected through this ice cream man. He puts people into horrifying situations. I love the artwork and the colors, and I love the concept of a creepy ice cream man. However, I wasn't a huge fan of all the stories. I think there was only like one or two stories that I found really interesting and scary. I don't know how many volumes there are in this, but I mean, it was a quick, interesting summer read. Then I picked up Just Like Mother, which is probably my favorite book of the year so far. This one surprised the hell out of me. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did. So this centers on a young woman who, when she was younger, she was a part of this cult with her cousin. Their cult is broken up when they're young, when they're little, and she goes into foster care, and she doesn't see her cousin again until she's an adult. And she reunites with her cousin and is pulled into her cousin's weird world. Her cousin is super successful, and she owns this business that is trying to help women become mothers and prepare them for motherhood. And she creates these creepy ass dolls that are like real life babies almost to help mothers deal with loss and just prepare. And it's super creepy. There is so much dread and tension in this story. It's kind of slow, but I found the characters to be extremely interesting, and we get flashbacks to her childhood in this cult, which was really, I really liked those moments. So you really understand why our main character is the way she is. She's very vulnerable. She's very standoffish and hard to open up to people, but she's also completely in love with, in a familial sense, she really loves her cousin and she wants to be a part of her life, even if there are things in her cousin's world that make her question things. And then it goes horribly, horribly wrong. The final act, ooh, it is one of the best final acts I've read in a very long time. I feel like this is a perfect homage to Rosemary's Baby without copying Rosemary's Baby. Like, they took that concept and made it its own. I loved it. I think it's a great read and I highly, highly recommend this one. And lastly, I read a book I thought I would never read, and that is Dark Matter from Blake Crouch. The reason I didn't think I'd read it is because it sounded more sci-fi to me than horror. It just didn't sound up my alley. And then one day I just got the strong urge to read it and I found it at a local thrift store and I read this so fast. I was hooked immediately. It centers on this guy who's like a scientist or a physicist or something who basically gave up his career as a big scientist to marry the woman he loves and start a family with her. And then one day when he's walking home from a night out with friends, he gets kidnapped and he wakes up in an alternate reality. It's a little confusing, but the guy spends the rest of the book trying to get back to his reality so he can reunite with his wife and son. So it's a part love story, part sci-fi. It's really horrifying to think of the situation. If you were in that situation, what would you do? And I was hooked immediately. It's a little long and it kind of dragged out toward the end. I was just ready for things to get moving, but the whole build-up was excellent. I really liked it. And this is the same guy who wrote Wayward Pines, which I really want to read now. I watched the series on Fox years ago when it was on and I remember really liking it, but just thinking it was a little out there, but maybe the book is better. But yeah, I overall enjoyed this and I do want to check out more from this author. So there you have it. Those are some of my recent reads. All of these books were pretty good. I highly recommend all of them, particularly Just Like Mother. I loved Just Like Mother. So let me know if you've read any of these books. Let me know what books you think I should read. If you have any recommendations for me, I would love to chat about them in the comments. And thank you so much for watching, guys. I will catch you next time. Bye.